Hi, Gerald. Thanks so much for your question. So we're just going to be looking at a couple of questions around the idea of writing expressions and how variables work. But there are a couple of things we need to remember, a couple of very important words. Okay, so we can look at the sum of, right? That's very important. And then things like less than, that's also very important. And the product of, very important. And the quotient, also very important. Okay, so when we're looking at the sum of, we're talking about addition. And when we say less than, or let's start with the difference normally means minus, so does less than. But we'll notice that the wording is also very important, less than. And then we have the product. The product, which means multiplication, and the quotient. The quotient, which is actually a little bit more trickier than it sounds, but what it's actually talking about would be, the quotient would be some number divided by another number, and that would give us the quotient. So we're going to be looking at all of these in terms of the three questions we have here. I will get to your question, but we're just going to look at these first. Okay, so let's dive right into it. The sum of 9 and product of 6 and x. So we know the sum of, we're going to be looking at addition. So we're going to have the sum of 9. So we're going to have 9 plus something. So 9 plus the product of 6 and x. So we know the product means multiplication. And if we want to express 6 times x, we would just write 6x. Just like that. And that's what that's going to look like. Okay, and it's not that complicated, but it is very important that we remember that. Okay, now when we look at the next one, this one is a little bit more tricky, and we need to be very careful about the way we write it, because how we say it is very important and how we write it is very important. So when they say 4 less than the product of 7 and b, in this case, what we're actually going to do is take the product of 7 and b and minus 4 from it, because it's 4 less than. Okay, so we need to be very careful about how we read this question. So when they say the product of 7 and b, we're going to get 7b, and then less than will be minus whatever that number is. So 7b less 4. So 4 less than what we actually have. And that's going to be the same with what we get down here, except rather than the product, we're going to be looking at the quotient. And in this case, we know that the quotient is 6 and x. So 5 less than the quotient of 6 and x. So we're going to write the quotient as a number divided by another one, a dividend over the divisor. So we're going to have the quotient 6 over x, 6 and x, this quotient of 6 and x less 5 of that. So 5 less than the quotient of 6 and x. I hope that makes sense. So now we get to the original question that you actually asked us. And if we look at the rules that we just kind of went through, we're going to see here that there's a difference. Now we don't have less than, we actually have more than. And you can guess what more than means in this particular case. It would mean addition, because if less than means minus, then more than would mean plus. So now I want to encourage you to just pause the video and see if you can actually solve this one, knowing that when we have less than, we take that number to the end. So when we have more than, I think we would do pretty much the same thing. So just pause the video and try and solve this one before we solve it together. Okay, so now we know that 9 more than, that means we're going to get something plus something else. So, or plus 9, we're going to get something plus 9. And over here they talk about the quotient 2 and a number x. So remember, when we have a quotient, we're going to write one number divided by another. So we're going to have the quotient of 2 and a number x more than plus 9. 9 more than that. And this is what our answer is going to look like. Okay, the videos on the app also kind of explain this particular question. So I'm thinking maybe you can look at the videos again, look at this one as well, and try the exercises. Maybe try writing expressions with basic variables first, and then come back and do writing expressions with variables when you're a little bit more comfortable with that one, because it will be much easier for you to go through this one if you go through that one first. Okay, I hope this video was helpful. If you need help with anything else, please let me know. Okay, cool. Bye.